for the thing. Hey, all right, it just told me I'm live, so I might have figured this out. It's been 3 years. I see there's people in the chat, but it's not logging you as up here. There's a little eyeball that tells me how many people are viewing, and it's 0. 5. There we are. Okay, we got them. So yeah, we got Hard Pill to Swallow. Kate DeJonia was here for a minute. Sandy Skinks. Carissa, finally, I lured her onto the show. Who else we got? Moon was here. I don't know. Let's just get everybody out of the way. I think that was it. That's our 5, and me. So I found a way to count myself as a viewer. Oh, we lost one already. Okay, cool. So anyway, guys, welcome to the new year. Happy New Year. I hope it's going great for you already. It's day 2. So this is the top. This is as good as it's going to get this year. I read the fortune cookies. It's just going to be a rat race straight down a hill from here. So sorry, this is the best part of your week. It's going to be the best part of your week every week. So right now, 8:30 p.m. Tuesdays. Okay. We got our new setup. This is my co-host Bingo. She's hiding right now, but this is her new setup. It is hillbilly, but it gives her more space than I could give her in anything else. So I'm very proud of it. So I will be upgrading it from time to time, but for now, it's just what she gets. So what else? Let's bring tonight. We are going to talk with Heather. Heather C. You may know from other places. She's been with the show forever, I think. I'm not real sure when she came on into watching the show or how we got involved with Heather. It just kind of happened. It was very organic. And now we're intertwined. Our lives are intertwined, and Carissa's. So, but we are going to talk tonight about neurodivergence. So Heather kind of introduced me to that actual concept, and then I finally looked up what it actually means today. So today I finally looked into it to get a straight definition. So I knew before you did. But I think it's rampant in our communities, our exotics communities. So we are going to get into it. Let me get Heather here before I give away all of the stuff we're going to talk about. Miss C, welcome to the show.
Hello. How's it going, y'all? I'm excited
now we have to
be
wait
here.
for them to answer. We have to wait for them to answer. So if you could just sit here quietly.
Yes, and happy New Year. Happy 2024.
So I have my drink tonight by our super future sponsor, Sprecher's. It's 3 things I love. It's Sprecher's soda. It's got a griffin, and it is Honeycrisp apple soda. So we're gonna see. I didn't know this existed till yesterday.
I miss Sprecher. We don't have Sprecher out here. I'm in the Northwest, but I grew up in Wisconsin, so I was spoiled with Sprecher, and I'm like, what? We can't get it out here? It's nonsense.
You can smell the Honeycrisp. You can smell it.
Man, I'm slumming with my apple hint water. But if anyone wants to, apple hint water wants to, sponsor us, that'd be great too.
Yeah, I'll take that too. Anybody wants to sponsor us? If anyone, except for Coke. If you're at Coke and you're watching this and you want to sponsor this show, we'll get this rated R. Go fuck yourself. So Coca-Cola products have been the worst things I've ever tried on this show, hands down. Yeah. Hands down the worst things. That includes Flamin' Hot Mountain Dew. Flamin' Hot Mountain Dew was so good compared to Dream Coke. Yeah, Dream flavored Coke.
Not a big soda drinker, so I like my non-fizzy stuff, but
it keeps you healthy.
My partners are very into the carbonated water. We have like 100 flavors of hint water or of bubbly and LaCroix and all that stuff in the house at any point in time. Yeah, it can't hang, but no, it's okay. It's okay.
It's got this like barely a flavor, like you smell something in the other room, like
someone's whispering.
I also just noticed today my whole face is at a slant, like this nostril is higher than this nostril, and this eye is higher than this eye. So I'm very upset with my facial features today. I feel a little bit like sloth right now.
So you've got a joys of technology. You can just like tilt your camera a little bit.
Tilt my head. Val's always calling me out because I watch TV like this. So you'll see me if you go back in old videos, or from now on, you guys watch. I'll watch the guests, and my head will be tilted so I can have perspective. So, yeah, I'm like 2 evolutions away from being a flounder. So
oh, there you go. You're so close. The eye is getting further and further, and all of a sudden you'll be laying on the floor with the eyes on both sides. I love it.
My grandkids. Mexican Coke is awesome.
Yeah, Mexican Coke is good. Coke is a good mixer. I don't like it by itself.
Mexican Coke is good by itself. It's good, but it is a good mixer. It's better. They got the real sugar.
I don't know why. This is really important. Neurodivergent example of an ADHD conversation. We start
just immediate tangent.
Just go wildly tangent.
Immediate tangent. So, all right. So, Heather, you work in a field that deals with this, right? You have a field where you help kids.
Yes.
That are not neurotypical.
Yes. Okay. So I am a speech language pathologist. And I would love to say I make so much money with reptile stuff that I can just like do reptile stuff and play with bugs and animals all day, but I don't. I'm a speech language pathologist. I work with middle school and high school students. And the vast majority of the students that I work with are what would be considered neurodivergent kids. So autistic kids with ADHD, kids with specific learning disabilities, kids with dyslexia. So neurodivergence is more than just being autistic or having ADHD. There are like multiple ways of being neurodivergent. And we kind of talked about it before the show, but just kind of, it means having your mind work in a way that is not what you would typically expect. Typical. Yeah, well, and typical in quotes because it's ridiculous. But in my own kind of like cynical way, I'm like, it makes your mind work in a way that doesn't fit into being a good little cog in society and being a good producer for the shareholders. But we won't go into a whole leftist rant on this. That's maybe another episode.
Or being an extreme producer for the shareholders. Like, there's flip sides to everything, right? If you harness your neurodivergence, it is. We mentioned earlier, well, we're not going to talk about what we said before the show. Forget everything we talked about. It's like a superpower in some extent. Like, it is. It's like having a Superman. You can do something extremely well, but there's some other deficit. Like, you have to have that balance. So there's something that sucks. Like, I can hyper-focus on multiple things. Actually, I can bounce from thing to thing, but I never finish anything. So,
that's that executive dysfunction piece that goes with a lot of neurodivergence. And that's one of the things that I work on a lot with my kids is executive function. Hi, Coral. So, how to plan an assignment. Time blindness is super duper common with neurodivergent folks. Not everyone. And again, there's multiple kinds of neurodivergent. So if your flavor of neurodivergence is epilepsy, maybe time blindness isn't a thing for you. But for autistic people, for people that are ADHD, time blindness, not being aware of how much time it's going to take to do something, or not being aware of how much time has passed, where, you look down and you're like, oh, that's a cool isopod, and I'm going to like go down a rabbit hole, and you look up and it's been like 3 hours. Or it takes you, 3 hours to do a project that if you just buckled down and focused on it, or were able to do that, would take you 10 minutes. So that time awareness of time is a big challenge for neurodivergent people in general, a lot of them. And so that's one of the things I work on with my students. But in the reptile and invertebrate, and I don't know, to quote Reptiliatus, and this specialty pet kind of hobby versus exotic pets, which makes it sound like they're wearing like pasties and, dancing around like, ooh,
I like exotics. Yeah, that's what I like. I want to think like there's reptiles with like boobs. So, like in Dungeons and Dragons, like lizard men, like the women have boobs, and it's like, why? Why do reptiles have boobs, or bird people or cat people? Have, like,
I got nothing. And we could go into D&D and neurodivergence too. That would be a whole nother thing. Because that is also a Venn diagram. That's a circle.
There's no, get out of there.
But it is, as I got to know people in the community, and I've loved reptiles my whole life. I remember being like 6 years old and walking down to the lagoon about a half a mile from my parents' house with a big fishing net to catch frogs. Like, I've always loved reptiles. I've always loved amphibians. I know that's not a reptile, a frog, but and turtles and bugs and all the cool stuff that other people were like, ew, this is gross. And I've always loved it. I've had a snake for 10 years, 9 or 10 years. Got him when he was tiny little baby, and now he's a big honking giant ball python. And I think a lot of people start their stories with this, but when the pandemic started,
oh my God,
things kind of shut down.
Oh my God.
Was when I kind of started my a little bit of more of a deep dive, and it had been probably 10 years since I split up with my ex-husband. He was not a big animal person. And so I kind of always in my mind had been like, well, I've got a snake and that's fine. And it never occurred to me that I could have more animals than that. And then, pandemic, spending a lot of time in the house, and I don't know, like what made it click, but just thinking, oh my gosh, I could get another reptile. I could totally do that. And literally no one's going to stop me. And so now, like 30 reptiles and God knows how many invertebrates later, my house is a damn zoo.
You're hard to watch. It's hard. It is hard to watch you. Like Reed and I have tried to schedule an intervention, and Carissa was not on board. No, we never contacted Carissa.
She's an enabler. She's an enabler because she likes them too.
We never contacted Carissa, but I was like, we need to reach out, because every time we talk to you guys, like, well, we'll be there, but we're coming back from a show, and we're not planning to get anything. And then, you send pictures of your trunk full of.
Yeah, I know. But the thing for me, like, is I would say ADHD probably fits my neurotype the best.
Sure.
As far as like my flavor of neurodivergence. Hyperfocus is a thing. Looking at something and saying, wow, this learning about this gives me such endorphins, such a huge rush.
Yeah.
And I kind of went down the reptile rabbit hole, and I can't ever see myself losing that hyperfocus, because it is such an incredibly huge, I wouldn't even say hobby. It's such an incredibly huge, like body of knowledge. Like,
yeah,
I was into baking for a while, and I love baking. I still enjoy baking. I have a culinary degree too that I do nothing with. But I do love to bake. But once you kind of master something, you're like, okay, the charge isn't there anymore. I'm like, I'm good at this now. So it's lost its interest. With reptiles, it's like, okay, well, I'm interested in this. And oh my gosh, well, now I'm going to learn about the plants that I can put in that enclosure. Well, if I learn about the plants, then I have to learn about the cleanup crew that I can put in there. There's different kinds of isopods. Oh my God, I could go down that rabbit hole for years. And oh my God, there's other kinds of springtails. I could do that. Like,
there's aquatic ones. Did you know?
I know. Oh my God, I know.
Aquatic ones.
I know. I watch Ryan's Facebook all the time.
Yeah.
That would be Springtails US for, I think everyone in the chat knows Ryan. But
he's a sponsor. He's our one sponsor.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
Springtails US. That's the Springtails. He's got the hookup, and he knows all the stuff. But it's there's so much depth and breadth of knowledge in the reptile and invertebrate hobby. And for me, I kind of lump them into one.
Yeah.
Because I feel like anyone who is a reptile keeper is like one step away from being an invert keeper. And anyone who's an invert keeper is not even one step away from being a reptile keeper. And so, And then there's the fish community, which is also like, there's that Venn diagram, and then the plant keeping community. So you can go
within arm's length. I have newts, crayfish, ants, fish.
Yep.
Reptile.
Mm-hmm.
Farther away, springtails, isopods, land fleas or lawn fleas.
Yeah.
Shrimp, more ants. What else is over there? Tarantula. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's all connected. And you can go into, like, you can go on so many different deep dives. I could literally learn something new every day, and I would run out of days before I would run out of things to learn. So for me, that is so like the perfect ADHD hobby, because there's always something new to learn. I talked to, I'm a part of a decent number of reptile and invertebrate groups on Facebook, but I did talk to, I posted in the Female Herpers and Reptile Keepers group, which is a pretty decently sized, like 22,000 people in this group. Yep. I posted saying, hey, I'm going to be talking to my friend Josh about, oh yeah, absolutely, the neurodivergent people glom onto unusual hobbies.
I want to come back to this. I have a theory about this, so we'll come back to this. I don't want to interrupt you.
No, definitely. From my info dump about this.
Yeah.
So I posted in the Female Herpers and Reptile Keepers group just saying, are you some flavor of neurodivergent, whether that's autistic, ADHD, Tourette's, BPD, OCD, all of the, so many things that fall under the neurodivergent umbrella. And how do you see that kind of connecting with your keeping of reptiles, mostly reptiles in this group, but there's a lot of invertebrate keepers too. I posted that 2 days ago and I had 129 comments within the first 2 days of people in this group, not counting just the people that liked it.
The only way I get that is insulting someone's kid's pictures. That's the only way I get that many responses.
And it was so many people had such, I've loved reptiles since I was a kid. I've loved invertebrates since I was a kid. Talking about that deep dive, that like thrill of discovering more information about something. And then also how people are, how it works for them versus like they're doing it because of how their brain works, more like how they're using that, like people with anxiety or PTSD that are saying, my animals allow me to have a non-judgmental living thing that I can have a connection to, and how incredibly valuable that is for my mental health. And it gives me structure in my day. It gives me a way to relate to other people because we can share this information. Yeah. And it's they're so it's so positive. So much of it is so positive, but then there's also it's challenging for me. I got a lot of comments that were like, it's hard because I have ADHD, and coming up with schedules to make sure that my animals are getting the best care that they possibly can and the best husbandry that they can have is hard because I've got these other things working against me, this executive dysfunction, or kind of, again, this time blindness, other things that are going on, or maybe chronic pain or other chronic kind of conditions that can go with neurodivergence.
Sure.
But I feel like there are resources out there online. There's groups for neurodivergent people in general. So kind of being aware of, hey, this is how my brain works. What are some strategies that I could use to help be a successful reptile keeper? Knowing that, like, okay, I'm ADHD. What can I do to make sure that my collection, my animals are getting the care that they need? So there's pros and cons. But I feel like the vast majority of the comments were, I have loved animals since I was a kid. I've always felt a connection to animals. That non-judgmental piece came up over and over in the comments, where it was like, I love having a connection to another living thing. Humans are just a huge headache a lot of the time, and that's not my opinion. Well, somewhat, but like that was something that came up a lot was, hey, I'm having these connections with another living thing I'm seeing it thrive and grow under my care. And that can be incredibly rewarding.
Now, I'm on Team Human. So I think that as neurodivergent people, like I myself, have like 20 diagnoses. So there's things that don't work in my brain that we talked about a little bit before the show, but like again, I'm referring to before the show, the dysmorphia where I can't. My wife came home with a haircut one day. She came home and had her hair cut and dyed, and it had been over a year since she had done a serious redo. And she walked in the door, and I looked at her, and my brain was like, who the hell just walked in my house? Like, someone just walked in my house, and I was trying to figure out what to do about that. Mm-hmm. Like, some woman just walked in my house. Well, she just saw my face and assumed that I hated it, but I didn't. I just needed time to get used to it. So She wasn't used to this reaction, so she went back the next day and got her hair redone. And that confused me more. Like, I thought I had hallucinated the day before. I was freaking out. So, but it's a real thing. Like, I can't, if one of the girls at work gets their hair done, I can't.
Yeah, that face blindness.
It takes me a second. I'm like, wait a minute. Oh, okay. And one of the ladies, she has multiple wigs. You know, she changes her wigs every day or two. And every day I just have to be like, good morning. Good morning. Because I hear her. I've had to train myself to hear her. Like, she comes in a certain way. And then I know, oh, okay, that's Sonda. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to drop her name. And then I can look up. Once I've identified her by sound, I can look up and it's more comfortable. But yeah,
and those are those coping strategies, being aware of what your challenges are and finding strategies to kind of mitigate the challenges and enjoy the parts of it that make your life more meaningful.
Yeah, you know, but I feel like, so my point was, sorry, that I didn't get to it in time, but that it's easier to relate to an animal that's not going to, they're going to do something expected. Once you understand I think a big part for me of the fascination with animals is learning their behaviors. And their stimuli and how they react to that stimuli, because it's going to be pretty consistent. They're going to react to the same thing the same way. Would you get out of here? There's all these wires.
Every time your cat is going to be an asshole.
Oh my God. He's shaking the whole light rig. Like, it's all new here. This is a whole new setup. So he's shaking the light rig. He's dragging my mouse cord around. And like,
wrong mouse.
Yeah. I can't kick him while I'm live, because then you guys get mad. No, I still kick him.
And he got demonetized for threats of violence.
Right. I'm not monetized yet, so I can say whatever I want.
Oh, man. Okay.
But I think there's that. I don't know what people are going to do all the time. I try to, and I catch myself being kind of manipulative in my life just to make sure I know what's going to happen. Not really to get a response that I need, but like, just so I know what's going to happen.
Right.
I try to gauge it. And that's my own thing that I've noticed. Like, my therapist is like, you got to stop. So,
yeah, you know.
But animals are so much easier for me to relate to because they are very predictable.
Yes.
So, and when they react unpredictably, it's like my favorite thing ever, because in my brain, people should have known that was going to happen. Like when someone gets bit online by their own snake because they weren't paying attention to the body language.
Yeah.
I could watch those for hours. I could watch people get bit by snakes for hours over on a loop. Like, it's so funny because like, you idiot. Like, what are you doing? But yeah, that's me. Anyway, I'm sorry. That wasn't even a tangent. That was on point.
No, we are like focused. I'm proud of us. This is good.
I must be manic today because yeah. So I've got touch with the autism, which my mom diagnosed me with, basically, because you know, everybody's on the spectrum. I feel like everybody's on the spectrum at some point. I'm wrong, probably wrong, but that's my opinion. The ADHD, I got that. That was a new thing that the new doctors have noticed. The bipolar, and I think that anxiety. Everybody's got anxiety. It's 2024.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you don't have anxiety now, you're kind of not paying attention. You know, but I mean, it's interesting because, and I talked to, my kids are all one flavor or another of neurodivergent as well. You know, and I mean, it's tricky because when you're talking about something, I mean, the medical model is still very much like a pathology model. It's all deficit based. So in order to get a diagnosis, they kind of have to focus on, these are the negative things. And so things that aren't necessarily causing an impact in your life, it's still very much pathologized. So in order to have an autism diagnosis, you have to meet X of the, X number of criteria in the diagnostic statistical manual of, the DSM-5, or they may be on the 6 now. So basically it's a checklist, and it's like, do you do this and this and this and this? But it's so negative. It's all about this like negative, and almost all of the things that they describe are things that you could flip it and have it be a positive thing. But because you need to show some sort of negative impact for insurance to pay for something. The medical model is very much, it's all about the pathology. And so then there's the kind of, and then we're going into like philosophy of like illness and stuff. But it's tricky because I don't want to like say, well, this is completely, it's all positive, because it's not positive. Some of the time there are challenges. There's things that are harder for me to get done that a neurotypical person would have no problem with. I'm like, how do people do these kinds of things? Just bam, 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 and not go off on a tangent, like I'm doing right now. But
welcome to the show. I don't know if you've seen the show before.
I have once or twice. Yeah. But
503 times.
Yeah, but it is challenging, because all of these diagnoses, and I'm not saying that they're not real and very valid things, because they are, but the way that they're diagnosed is a lot of the time, it's basically a description of the symptoms. It's not like you take a test and you come back positive for ADHD, or you take a test and you come back positive for autism, or you take a test and you come back positive for OCD or BPD, or any of those, like the mental health stuff. It's hard.
Now I have to do a deep dive and see what the tests are. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it's challenging because it's not like, I mean, if you have an epilepsy diagnosis, that's like a medical diagnosis. But some of these, it's more like it's a description. So it gets very messy when you have people that they have this diagnosis and this diagnosis and this diagnosis. And it's like, are those actually the things that they have? Or are they all descriptors of some other thing? And there's all this overlap.
Yeah.
And that is...
When doctors don't have time to like hone in on it and decide and see. So they just have all these labels. Mm-hmm. Like, I wonder... I can see all the things that I've been labeled as in myself. Mm-hmm. Like, I can see those things.
Of course.
And I've been fortunate not to have a bunch of them slapped on me. Like, I don't feel like I have anything that doesn't need to be there slapped on me.
Of course.
But that's not typical. That's not the case. So,
and I feel like there is like definitely a people raised as male and people raised as female difference, where women are more likely to get the anxiety and OCD diagnosis, and men are more likely to get an autism diagnosis, because for a long time autism was considered, this is only boys have autism, and it was because the type features that they were using to identify it, they were their whole observation group was young boys. So of course those are the characteristics that you're gonna see. It's not an indictment of the medical system. Again, that would be a whole different podcast.
It'd be 5 whole podcasts.
Oh my God, right.
If you guys need a conspiracy theory, start looking into how the medical system works in America. You can find 12, and I'm with you. I'm going to make T-shirts.
Yeah, I mean, it's challenging. I feel like the internet is a wonderful resource, because you can go out there. Like, I mean, autism TikTok is like chef's kiss. You hear these people talking that were late diagnosed, like women in their 30s and 40s getting diagnosed. Sure. They're like, this makes so much sense to me now. All these things that I just couldn't figure out. Well, if I just try harder, if I just do this, those things shouldn't be hard for you if you are a quote unquote neurotypical person. So that's where those labels become helpful. And we kind of talked about this before I jumped on, was having a label. It's kind of, I'm quoting someone. I would love to say that this is my brilliant thought, but it's not. There is comfort in knowing that you're a typical zebra instead of an abnormal horse.
Yeah.
So having that label saying, okay, this is difficult for me for a reason. It's not just because I'm not trying. Oh, that absolutely too, Miles. I'm
putting this up because what in the hell is an AMAB and an AFAB? Like, I'm assuming
assigned male at birth versus assigned female at birth. So there's these kind of views of what is typical behavior for boys versus what is typical behavior for girls. And so it's a whole complicated shit show in my humble opinion. But having those labels sometimes can be helpful to kind of know that you're not alone, that there's other people that think like you out there or respond or have the same challenges you do. And I found that, and this kind of circles way back to like 10 minutes ago, I found that community, those people that seem like they get me and I can relate to, in the reptile and invertebrate hobby. Like I literally started connecting with people through like live streams like this, like the chats and live streams, Aquariumax, this one, Supreme Gecko, some of those, the live streams and the chats, and getting to know some of these people and then chatting with them, on Facebook and making connections.
Yeah.
It's like I finally, at age, I won't even say, not young.
32.
Oh, 32, yeah, 32, right? Absolutely. 32. I found my people. Like I found my people that I connect with, that it's like, this is awesome. We can info dump about this thing. And I'm not knowing in the back of my head the whole time, the other person is like, oh my God, could she just wrap it up and shut the hell up about why does she care about crustaceans that happen to live on land? And who cares if they're yellow instead of brown? What does it matter? Like, I'm genuinely connecting with people that are passionate about the same kinds of things that I am.
That's one of the awesome things about social media. Like, I think Carissa just said something about social media. Yeah. Helping you realize you're not alone. And then Hard Pill said something about the stigma of carrying the label. There are stigma. Getting into mental health. Getting into mental health in the last couple of years, like as an adult male. Yeah. There's a lot of stigma. Like once I tell people that I was in a program for a month, right? So it was outpatient, but I tell people all the time, and I don't care. I don't have any shame about it. It's on my head. And honestly, their reactions, I don't care. I hope that my story helps somebody. Yeah. And that's more important to me than being afraid of it. But I feel like I'm atypical. Yeah. In that, because I feel like a lot of people are afraid to have that on them or to be judged by other people. Being almost 50. And this is where I kind of take advantage of my privilege again as a white straight male. I don't give a shit what people think about me. So it's an advantage. It's a privilege to be able to feel that way.
But that's great, because then you are able to normalize that in a way that does not, you can do it in a way that some other people couldn't necessarily do it. And so that's wonderful that you're able to do that.
I'm using my powers for good.
Exactly. Use your power for good instead of evil, because it's true. And Carissa pointed out, social media has really helped us realize we're not alone. It's nice to know that you're not the only person. But normalizing that, because there is still a lot of stigma on a lot of labels. I mean, I feel like ADHD has become more kind of an acceptable saying, and I'm very open about, like, I am ADHD as hell. I have been, and I didn't know it until I was an adult, because I was always one of those kids that was smart enough at school that I didn't cause trouble. I was able to get good grades. And so there was no reason for me to be kind of like singled out as, well, she needs intervention, she needs medication. And I was able to kind of mask well enough to be normal. But I mean, as an adult, once you get all those extra demands, you have kids, you have a job, you're navigating all the things that you're navigating. I went to the, doctor. I didn't even get through the whole screener before the doctor's like, we're done. We don't need to go any further. Like, it was that level of like,
I mean, I could have told you within 10 minutes of meeting, like in a chat, I could have told you in 10 minutes, done.
Yeah.
I've been like, wow.
I'm not good at masking. I'm kind of who I am all the time, which is a blessing and a curse. That's a perfect example of, like, when I talk to people, I'm not ever going to be someone that I'm not. So, like, if you're talking to me, you're getting the real me. But there is advantages to being able to do that some of the time too. And I certainly don't take advantage of that ever. I wish I could.
I mean, I really like that you use the term masking, because I hate to say this, I'm going to come out right now. So, not gay, but a different kind of come out. So I project as a pretty social person, and I am, but at a certain point I have to fake it. Right. And I'm still not sure why I'm faking it. I do enjoy interaction. I enjoy having the fun, but I remember being in school and coming home exhausted. And it's because I was faking it all day. I was just like being part of the crowd or whatever, or like Mr. Jokes. and then it just, I don't know. It's hard, and sometimes I do it now, and then I start to get like, it balances with that thing where I don't give a shit what people think. So
because you're overstimulated and you're past that point of being able to regulate it.
Yeah, so once I get past the point where I'm done faking, I'm a dick. Like, I'm bad to be around, and I don't care. Like, I just all of a sudden flip a switch, and I'm working on balancing that now. Because that's not fair to everyone around me. They don't know. They shouldn't have to deal with my crazy, I'm going to call it craziness. Neurodivergent is not crazy.
No.
But in my case, it is. So,
and you can and that's the thing. Self-identifying is different than putting a label on someone else. You can put whatever labels you want on yourself. Right. It only becomes problematic when you're labeling someone else with ill intent.
Ill intent. I like that, because I was just gonna. I have this argument a lot with people, and because I'm too straightforward. But I think there's not really a problem with labeling people or judging, as long as you don't project that onto them. Like, and there's not that. Well, I guess intent is a lot to do with the evil in the world. Intent is where it comes from. But I'm a fan. Like, we talked about it. We touched on it before. I'm a fan of labels. Especially with this type of thing, like neurodivergence, but it's how they're used. As long as it's just to label it and understand it, because everything in our world has a label. Otherwise, why have a language? Why not just,
Right. Yeah.
I mean, enough of that.
People classify people as an organism. We are classifying organisms. We, you hear a sound in the cave. Yes, spoon theory. We can definitely talk about spoon theory, because that's a huge thing. And social battery. These are the words that I use all the time.
Yeah.
But I mean, we would not have survived as a species if we weren't able to classify and categorize things, because we would hear that rustle outside of our cave. Yeah. And we wouldn't if we did not classify that as, hey, that's that big scary thing with the fangs that's going to eat our head.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have been having the next generation of people. So that has served us very well as a species. However, we are far enough along now that we need to be aware of the potential impact. So it's one of those, like, you can classify people, you can use labels. It's being cognizant of what that impact is of that, and what is the intent behind it.
The intent, I think, is the important part. I think the label is, because you can recognize, like, hey, that guy's tall. It should be, in my head, this is how it is, and it should be, I think, it should be this universally. Me being tall is the same label and the same level of label as me being, I'm trying to pick a label, neurodivergent, whatever. I'll pick them all at once.
Right. So there isn't a value judgment. It's a descriptive rather than a prescriptive.
Yes. Yeah. So, absolutely. And then being that, like, I can say, oh, Heather is not that tall, but she is ADHD. That just gives me a jumping off point to be like, okay, Heather, I can expect.
Right. So these are some things that might be true.
I can expect a little bit of this from Heather, or I can be like, oh,
a lot of this.
But I also think that there's that danger where people write people off. Like, they make a bad behavior and you're like, oh, Josh is just ADHD, or he's a little bit, asocial or whatever. Like, that's just who Josh is. No, that's not an excuse. It can't be an excuse.
And it doesn't. Yeah. I mean, I think it should always be the intent to treat other people with kindness and treat people with respect. Yeah. And so it kind of needs to work both ways, like, if you're not being treated with kindness and respect, regardless of what that other person's issue is, then you have every right to not be in that situation anymore.
Sure. Yeah.
So kind of back to the chat thing, like Miles had talked about a social battery and your social battery being drained. And after a certain point, spoons. That's when that masking kicks in. Or spoons. You have only so many spoons for the day. And because of my sensory stuff, they have to be the little spoons, because the big spoons are garbage and need to go in the trash can. It has to be the little spoon and the little fork.
Big spoons for soup, little spoons for ice cream.
Oh, no big spoons for anything except for serving. They do not belong in someone's mouth. That is just unacceptable.
Clearly, you don't eat
everyone has a favorite spoon Every neurotypical, that's how you diagnose neurotypical versus neurodivergent is, do you have a favorite spoon that is your best spoon above all other spoons?
I don't have a
that
favorite.
should be the new spoon theory. That is the Heather spoon theory for neurodivergent diagnosis right there.
I will tell you, we have the spoons that we got married with, like we got them as a wedding gift, and then I have the spoons that I bought, and those are my spoons. They're more like a shovel kind of. They don't have that point on them. You know how they kind of have that point? Mine are just kind of like an oval. And that's my spoons. And when I see Val use one, I kind of flip my shit a little bit. Like
and I can stamp on your forehead neurodivergent then, because you have a favorite spoon.
Oh my God. I have so many neurodivergents. It's bad. It's bad. Like I had a list. I started checking it off before the show. I'm like, oh my God, I have all these pages.
Bingo, neurodivergent bingo.
Yeah, I got 3 bingos.
And that's the thing. And there's intersectionality in all the neurodivergencies too. You know, so you can have multiple things. You can have one thing, but they're going to kind of all impact each other too. This is all very tangential to reptiles, but yeah, spoon theory is definitely like you only have so many for the day. So like when you're done, you're done. And in a social situation, that's where that masking piece comes in. You either, I'm going to just put on this facade and do what I think is accepted of me, and then I'm going to go home and collapse and stare at the ceiling for 2 hours to decompress.
Yeah. Like I didn't know what spoon theory was until my wife had a stroke. And then, because, you know, you just get tired. You just get tired in the end of the day, whatever, you used it up. But because in her situation, it's way more serious. Like the spoons are way more precious. So, because most of us
much more noticeable.
If you don't have physical spoons, they're a little easier to recharge, and you can fake through. Or if you borrow spoons, you don't really borrow spoons. You just use too many, and then the next day you're basically recharged.
You're out. Yeah.
Yeah. If it's physical and you use too many, you take from the next day, and you just don't have those the next day. Like, you don't have those. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, or what we're talking about, so spoon theory is you have, let's say, 30 spoons at the beginning of the day. And you spend those spoons to do things like making breakfast is a spoon, brushing your teeth and taking a shower, all that is one spoon. I'm simplifying it. And you have that many to get through your day. Like your commute is a spoon. Work is 5 or 6 probably. Making dinner for yourself is another spoon. So, or they use up so quick. So people with certain diagnoses will start the day with less spoons.
And it came, I think, originally from the like chronic illness community rather than the neurodivergent community. So people that had like chronic fatigue syndrome, that have like things like Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, people that have, you know, post-stroke recovery, things like that. That's where that came from, is the chronic, not like I got sick and I'm recovering, but like chronic illness that is, you know, extended periods of time.
What is MECFS? What is that? Sandy's got MECFS.
I don't
know what that is. Sandy, we need something. ME?
Chronic. I'm guessing CFS is chronic fatigue syndrome. Yeah. So that, I mean, and it's one of those, spoon theory goes a lot with the kind of, chronic illness, and also like kind of the invisible illnesses, the ones that people are like, well, you seem fine. You seem normal. You know, you can get through your day. It's like, you can get through your day, but at what cost?
I see normal while I'm masking. Yes, I do see normal.
Yeah. And honestly, like that plays very much into, okay. Yeah. So, okay.
I don't know what that is. That's a new species. I haven't dealt with that species before. Is that
myalgic encephalomyelitis?
That's one of the spiky ones, I think, from Thailand. I think.
Those are $500 for like 5 of them. We don't have any of those yet.
Damn,
you gotta ask Ben Quintana for those. He's just importing them in for the first time. There's some isopod humor for the like 5 people in the world.
They're not going to live, but you can have them.
Oh, wah wah.
Med name and common name. Common name Sandy.
Okay, I didn't know that was the medical name for chronic fatigue syndrome. Thank you, Sandy. I've learned something new today.
Myalgic
Interesting.
encephalomyelitis. Wow. Okay. Yeah, no, that's
but
honestly, my brain went to what species is that, because I'm always trying to figure out when I have
the
guests
Latin
on,
names for stuff.
I don't know what they're talking about, and we all keep so many different things that I'm starting to learn a little bit of like, okay, this is going to be centipedes. This is going to be this.
Yes, exactly. If it's like a blap, if it has blap in it, it's probably a roach. You know, like you've got those like the Varanus is a monitor, and like you can kind of. But I mean, spoon theory can play very much into reptile and invertebrate keeping in the from the standpoint of you need to do things to keep your animals alive.
Yeah.
So it's like how do you manage that? What strategies can you put into place so you are not missing things, so you are not forgetting things, so at the end of the day you have enough energy left over to do those things, because the animals a lot of times do have a lot of positive impact on mental health. But there are some days where it's just like, oh my God, I overdid it today and I don't have the energy, excuse me. So like, how do you manage that? How do you strategize ahead of time? Like for me, knowing that I have executive function issues. So there may be days where I'm just like, shit, I just don't have it in me. And I am extremely lucky and blessed, #blessed, to in a completely ironic sense, because I think that term is hilarious, but I am extremely lucky to have a family around me that also loves animals. So I have my oldest daughter, I have 3 teenagers, which I personally think is amazing, but as much as sometimes I'm like, oh my God, teenagers are so scary. I love my kids. I have a 13-year-old, I have a 16-year-old, and I have a 17-year-old. Yes, 3 planning apps and good intentions, Miles. I love it. Instead of 3 planning apps, I have 3 teenagers who listen to directions well. So my oldest daughter is responsible for feeding all the snakes. We have 9 snakes. We have 4 ball pythons. We have 4 Kenyan sand boas, and I have a pygmy python. Yeah, absolutely, Sandy. Prioritizing is super important too, and knowing which animals can go an extra day without having, okay, well, they need to eat every 3 to 5 days. I'm going to feed them on day 5 instead of day 3 this week, because that's what I have the spoons for.
And I think that's a big part of these animals being so popular with neurodivergent folks that I never thought of it with spoon theory, but they're very forgiving. In the sense that you can put some things off a little bit, or you can do little bits at a time. Like Tuesdays, I have this budgeted. Wednesdays, I have this budgeted.
Exactly. It's not like dogs and cats where you have to take them for walks. I mean, maybe not cats. Dogs, you take them for a walk a couple times a day. You have to feed them twice a day. You have to do. There is a lot more, and there are definitely reptiles that need care. That's more intensive care, but it's a little bit easier to automate it. If you feel like, okay, it's really important. I have this animal that the humidity needs to be super high. You can technically, hi Beetle. Technically you can throw money at that if you have the money to do that. You can install an automatic misting system. You can have apps on your phone to do things. There's technology in place. I guess technically there's automatic feeders, and you could throw money at having a dog walker come in, but it's much easier and more straightforward to automate things for reptiles invertebrates than it would be for a mammal, really any mammal. Mammals are high maintenance. And honestly, like kind of going kind of in that tangent, I love my dogs. We have 2 corgis. They're ridiculous and funny, and I love them, and they're great. But those 2 dogs put together are more work and require more of my mental energy and emotional energy than all of my invertebrates and reptiles put together. Because my reptiles and invertebrates, I have 1 leopard gecko. We have 2 leopard geckos right now. One of which is my sister-in-law's, but he's still hanging out with us until he gets his enclosure built. I have 1 who he waits for me at night. He knows the routine. He waits for me with his little feet against the glass and waits for me to open the door so he can crawl out onto my hand and sit on my shoulder while we do the animal chores at night.
That's awesome.
He would be sad and upset, I think, as much as a reptile can be, if I did not take him out and interact with him. All of my other reptiles would be just as happy to never have me mess with them, other than to feed them and care for them. And dogs they want emotional connection. Cats want emotional connection. you can do it with reptiles, but there is not that same like expectation. They're not going to wreck something in the house because you're ignoring them. They're going to be like, cool, I'm going to sit on this glass and lick my eyeball. And that's going to be great. And I'd like some mealworms more when you get a chance, you know?
Yeah, I'm going to stare at you, but that's about it. Yeah, I think, and you're all loved. Don't pretend I don't love you guys. I tell you that all the time.
No, Pelly, I think that is super. That's also a really awesome point. Oh, and it doesn't always have to do with them being lower maintenance. What I'm saying is, like, for someone with executive dysfunction that they struggle with, if they want an animal that they can connect to, that may be a pro. I'm not saying that I certainly did not choose my reptiles because they were lower maintenance. I have mine because I love them. I think they're awesome and they are super meaningful for me to have. So I don't want that to come across as like, well, if you can't handle a dog, I guess a reptile is a good substitute. That's not what I'm saying at all. It's just that is a pro that they don't necessarily need that intensive care that a dog or a cat might need. I love that feeling like bugs and reptiles are unloved and misunderstood.
Yeah,
I absolutely agree with that. I don't know why I'm spinning. Can you still hear me talking? Okay,
I can. Yeah.
Okay, so it was just visual. I agree. I feel like they are a lot of times misunderstood. And for me, I take great joy in sharing that. That's a way for me to connect with other people too.
Yeah.
To say, hey, I have this thing that you maybe have this impression of, and let me show you the positive here. And that's a way to connect with other people. And that's, I mean, my wife was always terrified of snakes. She was terrified of spiders. When we first got together, like one of our first dates, she came back to my house to see the house and to see my aunt. At that point, I just had the one snake, and she held my ball python, and he's super chill, happy. And she's like, oh my God, I'm holding a snake. I've never done this. And that was really, it was like this really meaningful experience to be able to share that and show something to someone who I cared about, who I thought, I'm like, this is a really awesome person. I'm going to share this thing that's really positive in my life. And it was a way to connect with her.
Okay.
And I don't know, that just kind of popped into my head, but that's also, I love that as a way to connect with other people. One of my favorite things in the world is meeting people and having them come into my house to like buy isopods or buy like just random like fruit fly cultures, stuff like that. Or like, and they come into my house and they look around, or jumping spiders. I had someone come in the other day to buy a jumping spider, and she took one look at my living room, which is full of animal enclosures, and went, I need to see everything. And it literally turned into like a 2-hour walk around my house and talk about and it was such an awesome way to just connect with this other person.
Yeah.
That I didn't even know. And afterwards, I literally was like, I feel like I had like a beer. Like I was like giggly and happy because I felt like I was able to make like a really meaningful connection with someone. And I don't know. And in a way that she was like, I would never in a million years have considered, I didn't even know this animal existed.
Yeah.
And to see it and be like, oh my God, this is so cool. I love sharing my joy with other people.
Right.
Because I feel like sometimes it's hard to connect to neurotypical people. Feel like I don't.
Laura, what do you mean by this? What do you mean by this, Laura? I get the same thing. All right, I find myself being like, does that make sense? Am I saying that right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I love being able to share the awesomeness of reptiles and invertebrates with other people. And if you find another person who is also into it, and then you can be like, well, but did you hear about this? Well, but did you hear about this? And it becomes this, like, you're vibing back and forth talking about it. And it's like brings me such joy.
Do you guys find yourself dropping little hints in conversations? So like I'm into a lot of nerd stuff. Like I posted the big long thing of all my little hobbies. So I will find something to talk about with people. But yeah, I will like drop little animal things, like, because any animal, I'll talk to you about any animal, I don't care. But I'll drop little hints like, oh yes, I did this at the zoo, and if people are like, yeah, who cares? Then I'm like, okay, check that box. We're not talking to them about that.
Red flag.
Yeah, and then I'm like, oh, I do a YouTube show, and every single person is like, or they'll be like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm writing something down for my YouTube show, and they're like, oh, you do YouTube? Oh, and it's a big deal. And I'm like, yeah, what's it about? And as soon as I'm like, oh, bugs and stuff, they're like, what? You can do a YouTube? Well, yeah, there's thousands of us. There's literally thousands of people that do a YouTube on this.
Oh yeah.
Some of them make money at it.
At least 5. I mean, there's at least five. That's crazy.
If you guys haven't watched the new Ants Canada videos, the last little series he did, watch them. He
jungle, where he's got the crazy. Yeah, I haven't seen him. I've only seen like the screen caps of them. I don't watch him all the time, but periodically I'll watch his stuff, and I would kill for a setup like his, where he has that whole room.
All you need is like 5 million subs and to live in where does he live? Philippines. Yeah, just live in the Philippines and
just that.
Yeah, that's all. And have 5 million subs. That's all you need to do. And be an actor, singer.
Oh yeah, he's got all other kinds of stuff going on. He's one of those super multi-talented folks.
Super talented.
Yeah. But there is a lot of us out there. And I do think it's funny because I do the same thing in conversation. I'll be like, oh, well, I can't work this weekend because I have I'm meeting someone to sell them a jumping spider. Or like I can't work this weekend because I have someone coming over to see my snakes, or like and just kind of seeing people's responses to that, or talking about like, oh well there's we're outside. Oh, there's roly-polies over there. I have some of those at home. Yeah. And they're like, why would you have those at home? And be like, well, let me pull up my Instagram and show you all the cool ones. And then, I mean, it's a cool way to engage with other people. And I sometimes, like I said, sometimes that's hard. It's hard to do it. And if you can find someone that is excited about it, 9 times out of 10, they're going to be neurodivergent too.
But that's like before social media, getting back to that, like that's how we had to find our people. Is like drop these weird hints and then find out what they're into. Or just meet random people at a reptile show or something. And I think that's why I've met so many cool people at shows and expos or in pet stores, just randos that are, that I met and now we're friends for life. Like,
yeah, which is awesome.
Because we're kind of, I feel like as much as we love our animals, we're a little bit starved for human interaction.
I mean, sometimes.
Biologically, you need it. And being on that outskirts.
People are social animals. That's true.
True. And so I feel like we're friendly. Some of it's friendliness and some of it's a little bit of desperation. And like, I hate to put that label on it, but like, think about it, you guys. Like, I'm a little desperate to have friends that are into what I'm into. Because I could talk about it. Like, as a ADHD, like when I'm manic, I could talk about, oh my God, I could talk about whatever for hours and exhaust people that are into it. And like, I have to stop myself. Like, oh wait, you tuned out, didn't you? I do that to my wife. I'm like, oh, you tuned out. I'm good. Let's talk about something else.
Yeah. That's why I'm very lucky that my wife is into reptiles now. And now my sister-in-law is, hi Jasmine, if you're watching this.
She's not.
Oh no, she was very excited. So she's not watching it now. She'll hopefully watch it later, but she is now getting into reptiles and invertebrates. And so she'll send me a message and say like, hey, have you ever, oh my gosh, right? The police in my neighborhood probably think I am because I have random people coming to my house and leaving with little paper bags of stuff, or I'm meeting people in parking lots.
Little pill vials. Just do it in pill vials.
Yes, it's so bad. I actually my daughter drew this lovely sticker, and I had Crafts with Pudge.
Oh my God.
Chris from Crafts with Pudge make these. So it's a jumping spider, and it says bugs, not drugs. Because nice. I always laugh that it looks like I'm doing like weird illicit drug deals because I'm meeting people in parking lots to like buy spiders or like exchange enclosure. It's just really funny. But I do feel like it's finding your people is really, it's really wonderful when you are into things that typically not everyone is into. But yeah, going to reptile shows. My kids refuse to go to pet stores with me anymore because I will strike up a conversation with someone and it'll be like an hour before they can leave. And they're like, Mom, oh my God, could you just stop?
I I go in, there's one, we did the live from the pet store over here. And I'm still trying to talk him out of keeping sulcatas. Like I want him to stop selling sulcata tortoises. It's so far I'm close. I think I'm close. As much as I am close to like getting our sushi guy to stop serving octopus.
Yes. Oh, yeah. That just bums me out. I love octopi so much. That just makes me so sad.
But I'll go there, and I don't know a lot of people. I know like him and a couple of his employees, and I'll go through the animals real quick in the front because he's got all this like crazy stuff in the front, and like things you've hardly ever seen, or like a weird morph that you didn't know existed. And so I'll find that, and then I'll see the next person come in and be like, "Oh, that's really cool." And I'm like, "Yeah, I was just saying that." Like I'm like stalking. Again, I'm manipulating a conversation. I'm like, "Yeah, right. Oh my God, did you see this over here? Oh yeah." Well.
See, for me, the hyperfocus is like appropriate husbandry. So what I do is if I'm like at Petco or PetSmart or one of the like big chain stores, and I'm like in the aisle, looking at, I don't know, whatever, like, do I need to stock up on this or that or the other thing? And someone comes down the aisle and they look utterly baffled.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, do you look like you're super confused right now about, are you looking for a specific animal?
Yeah.
And, 9 times out of 10, it's a bearded dragon that someone bought for their kid that they know nothing about. And they're like, I know nothing about this. That's this big.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're like, well, I don't know. There's so much information online. And it literally turns into like an hour-long conversation about, okay, so here are your basics. This is what you're looking at long-term. And I don't even have a bearded dragon, but I know so much about bearded dragon husbandry because the deep dives that I've gone down on the internet on all the different animal husbandry requirements. And so that's when my kids are like, oh my God, Mom, can we please go eat dinner now? Like, where they won't do it anymore. But I love being able to share that knowledge.
Yeah, for sure.
With people. And a lot of times I feel like I'm doing something that's, even if that person is like, oh my God, what an idiot, and they never talk to me again, hopefully that animal that they have will have a better life because I interacted with them. And a lot of the times the people are super cool and I end up, talking to them like, okay, this is my Instagram. And I have people message me, after the fact and ask me questions.
I don't do that.
Beetle was saying dairy cows are the gateway bugs. Right. Dairy cows are the gateway isopod for sure.
I still have mine. I still have way too many. So thankfully, Bingo thinks they're delicious. So
yep. My skink will eat them. Both my leopard geckos will eat them. So
I want to hold her for the show. But
Bingo, you said will eat veggies though. Now she's eating some veggies.
Well, here's the tip. Here's the thing. She'll eat anything I give her off of tongs. So otherwise she hardly eats. Like if I don't give her food she'll eat hard-boiled egg. She'll go crazy for hard-boiled egg. But she really doesn't eat unless I feed her with tongs. I keep being like, why won't you eat? Why won't you eat? And so I'll take the tongs out and she's like, oh, thank you, sir.
Yeah, Cheeto's kind of the same way, but she likes live food much better. So she'll eat any sort of worms, dubias, any of that stuff. She's like all about it. If it's like the just static food, she's like, what is this bowl? Give me something writhing.
Here's the deal. So Bingo likes her berries, which is some of the stuff I've read, the berries are like the important thing because that's what they eat in the wild, right? Or like edible flowers. So I planted morning glory seeds on the outside, so between the grate and the vinyl here, so she can't trample the seedling. The flowers are highly edible and the leaves are edible. I'm going to do nasturtium. If this works, I'm going to do nasturtium too, because that whole plant is edible. But anyway, so I take the berries and I take the veggies I want her to eat, which is usually like, I don't know, spinach, baby kale, arugula is a big deal. And I mash them all. I cut it all up together into like a slaw. So then I stir it up. And so it's got the berry juice all over it, right? And so she eats it then. She'll eat it pretty good then.
Spoiled animals.
Yeah, you got to trick her. I just want to trick her. It's like my kid.
Oh, God.
Faith is eating cauliflower chicken nuggets now. She doesn't even know she's getting vegetables. So Yep.
Oh, I love
These are
it.
good, Daddy. I like these ones with the green chunks. Good.
Yeah,
Good.
definitely. Hard pill to swallow, I agree. Dairy cows should be the face of isopods because rubber duckies are a lot harder to keep and they're a lot more expensive. So people go out and buy them, and I bet 90% of them die. Versus dairy cows that,
Really?
unless you're actively trying to kill them, dairy cows are going to breed for you. And yeah.
Even then, I'll be honest, I left my bin alone for like a month and came back to it because I was like, I'm just done with these. And I sold 1,000 and I came back, and 2 weeks later, it looked like I hadn't even touched the bin.
Yeah.
And so,
crazy.
yeah, they're still thriving. So I just was like, fine, we'll get 3 bins of dairy cows, I guess. I don't know what to do with them.
This is happening. Yeah. Beardy is Pelly was saying she loves her Beardy. Ooh. Yeah, they're funny. I mean, they're so cool. They've got such cool personalities. If I had more space, we would probably get one. We joke we have all the like basic reptiles. We've got like the leopard geckos. We've got 6 crested geckos now. One was supposed to be my mother-in-law's, but she decided she couldn't handle another one. So we're keeping him, but we absolutely love him. So we're not sad that she decided she didn't want him. So we've got, all the common ones, but then I've got like the pygmy python. I've got a micro Spherodactylus elegans micro gecko. Got a bunch of tarantulas. I've got tailless whip scorpions. But yeah, the only one that we don't have that's kind of your basic. We don't have a beardy and we don't have any corn snakes because my daughter is a sandboa. My daughter is a sandboa person, so we have 4 sandboas, and we don't have any corn snakes. And we're out of space now. We literally cannot. Barring moving to another space, we cannot have any more reptiles.
That's so funny. Beardies have such a big space requirement.
And I would want to give them at least a 5 foot, 5 by 2 by 2. That's what my blue tongue is getting, is a 5 by 2 by 2. And that's I'm excited to build that. She's going to be our dining room skink, so that'll be interesting.
Is it going to be under a glass table? Is that?
No, she is on a, I got a big muscle rack because that's what normal people have in their dining rooms, right?
Sure,
so we've got a muscle rack that's 72 inches long by 72 inches tall. That's 2 feet deep. That can hold like 8,000 pounds or something ridiculous.
And at first we were on the bottom rack? Does Geo get the bottom?
I was just thinking, I was like, there's 3 shelves. I could put 1 kid on each shelf, and then I could make the room into a reptile room, and it'd be perfect. They vetoed that. So instead, Cheeto's going to go on the bottom shelf, and then we've got 3 of the crested geckos on the middle shelf, and then there's plants on the top shelf.
Smart.
So it's really lovely because it's all these, really heavily planted bioactive enclosures that we can look at while we're eating, which is nice. And right now there's an aquarium where Cheeto's tank is going to go because I'm fish sitting for one of my friends until she moved and her aquarium started leaking. So she called me and was like, "Hey, can you take some fish?" I'm like, yeah, sure.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So yes, we haven't. So yes, Sandy, Cheeto is our dining room skink. She will be our hostess. She'll show us to the table. We can toss her some chicken. Maybe she'll eat that. She did eat turkey at Thanksgiving. She liked the turkey. So
that was giving her like regular, like boiled or something. Turkey,
oh yeah, it was just sous vide, just turkey, just cooked with nothing on it. Fancy turkey for the fancy
sous vide. That's all.
Just sous vide, no big deal.
This is awesome, by the way, guys. Go get some of this. If you like apples, serious, I swear to God, this is like one of the best things I've ever put in my face.
So kind of back on the topic of the reptiles and our whole conversation is just evidence of neurodivergence.
I figured.
Reptile and invertebrate keeping. It's just like
easiest episode ever.
Oh my God, right? Just be yourselves for a couple hours. But the other thing that I think is really, talking about like there's challenges, and so kind of strategizing how do you deal with those challenges and still keep your animals to a certain degree where they're getting exactly what they need.
Sure.
So that's kind of the challenge part of it. The positive thing I look at is that level of focus and intensity is like second to none. When you're, when you have a special interest of reptiles or invertebrates, you are going to know things about them that not many other people are going to know. ADHD hyperfocus as well. Like you go down that rabbit hole, you know every single thing about them. And I really feel like that's how a lot of the, kind of citizen science or just science in general, like biologists, we were talking about this before the episode. I don't know of too many neurotypical people who would look at, spend literally tens of years looking at different kinds of beetles to okay, well, the elytra on this one are slightly longer and rounded, and the elytra on this one are slightly shorter, and there's a small bit, like, if that is not neurodivergence, I don't know what is. The scientific community in general is like probably a much higher percentage of neurodivergent people.
Oh, yeah.
Because that hyperfocus and deep dive and intense passion about a topic, that's how people make incredible discoveries. That's how people figure out, like, okay, there's 200 kinds of springtails that are, like common in this country. Go on, like, bugguide.net, and there are people that literally have like thousands of entries. Or iNaturalist, where they have thousands of entries, and that's kind of citizen science. Yes, Adam, absolutely. Hyperfocus is just that joy of like you're learning something, that endorphin. I love it. It's wonderful.
Oh, let's do a total recap for Adam. So we're not doing that. You're gonna have to go back tomorrow or right after this. So sorry,
but the hyperfocus it's such a joy, and that observation. Like, I love looking at my animals and learning something new. I would literally sit and look at my isopod bins for like one bin for like an hour and just watch all the things that they do. And I'm fully comfortable with the fact that is not a neurotypical behavior, and that is okay because it brings me so much joy.
Here's where my neurotypical goes, because I adjust. So when I first got isopods, I got like 3 species, and they didn't do well because I was constantly staring at them, like constantly watching them do like the dumbest things, like just like, okay, what about this? And then every couple hours, I would try to reset up their thing a little different and be like, okay, so of course they weren't breeding, they were terrified. So then
all we see are these giant nostrils looking down on us.
They're not even. What the hell? So
oh god.
So they wouldn't breathe, they wouldn't do anything. So then I think Wally finally convinced me, like, just leave them alone for like a week. Get them set up with food and water and leave them alone. And so I did that, and the next week, like, boom, there was like an explosion of manka everywhere. And so now I never look at them. Like, I look at them while I'm doing changes or whatever, or readjusting.
Mm-hmm.
But that's it. That's really it. And so, like, it's like 20 minutes. The only ones I watch obsessively a little bit is the aficionados, because I think that they're going
they're so much fun. I love them. They're great.
But like,
they get into like fights over fish flakes and stuff. It's hilarious. Or they grab them and go barreling off with them. The aficionados, I love them.
Mine are so like gun shy though, that it, like, as soon as I pop the lid, it's just a bunch of balls.
Oh,
and then it takes them a half an hour to come out. And then if I move again, they're like, oh
god.
Yeah, so it's like, okay,
great.
I need to get a marble run thing for them and see.
Oh my god, yeah, but they don't roll up into a complete. That's how I can always tell if there's like, because I will have like random isopods that are just like walking down the hall in my house, and it's so funny because I've literally had, because I'm virtual, I work from home, and I'm doing, meetings, like I do IEP meetings, which are individual education plan meetings for my students. And I literally had a meeting a couple weeks ago where my dad came up to me and is standing right off of the screen and hands me an isopod, just like plops it into my hand. And I had to sit there for the rest of the meeting with an isopod in my hand, because I couldn't get up in the middle of the meeting that I was running to go put it back in a bin. But thank goodness it was one of the aficionados ones, so it stayed curled up in a ball the whole time. But it is funny because that's how I can tell them from any of the other species without any sort of having to like look very closely. When they curl up into a ball, they're like an oval. They're not like a perfectly round like the like the armadillidium. So it's funny. But yeah, I literally have had meetings where I'm holding an isopod in my hand. Which goes a lot. The kids do better with finding those than on the occasion when they find a dubia in the house, and then that becomes like a mom, come deal with this right now, kind of. Although everyone is very blasé about the tarantulas. I had tarantulas on our dining room table for like a couple months, and no one even cared. They're so over it now. They're just like completely like whatever.
That's fine.
Yeah. Oh, powders definitely play food tug of war. Watching the behavior on the different isopods is hilarious. They're so funny.
When I
my
first gave
cubaris
them
are pretty shy. The minnows.
When I first gave them the minnows, and you'd see, I think Magistroy. No, I don't remember. But you see them like go off with it. Like 10 of them are dragging it off, and it's like, are these ants?
Yeah. It's crazy. Or you put all the pellets, and they behave a lot like shrimp. It's funny. They'll grab, if it's small enough, they'll grab it and run off with it. My Amano shrimp do the same thing. They'll grab one pellet and go barreling off, with it. And I don't know. I love that kind of deep dive into things. Just watching it and then going and talking to people about it or reading about it. I don't know.
That's the best part of it, is you come here and be like, oh yeah, the tug of war, and there's comments like, oh yeah, this one does it too, this one does it too. And you can't do that in another, like I say I have bugs, and people are like, oh, okay, and that's where the conversation ends.
Exactly. That's a conversation stopper, not a starter.
I meet my people and I'm like, oh my God, do you remember the first time you saw a dairy cow like orgy? Like, it was the best part. I didn't know that was a thing. And
that and the blue death feigning beetles. Holy cow. It's like, get a room, guys. The Porcellio ornatus do that too. They'll take food from your hands. They're really cool.
Oh, that's cool.
When they do that, they'll you hold little fish flakes out and they'll grab them and run away with them. It's awesome.
My hoffs would get on my cuticles and start to chew. Yeah.
It's like the people that go get the fish pedicures where the little fish nibble. You just do that with a bucket of isopods and see, well, maybe that would be harder to.
For Podsgiving, I was going to do that with dairy cows, like put my feet in and then pour some on top and just sit the whole episode. But I have a sensory thing that I tried it for like a minute and I couldn't. I couldn't do it. I was losing it. My skin was crawling off my body. So
well, and sensory stuff, that's another thing that goes. I mean, sensory processing disorder is a type of neurodivergence too, but sensory stuff absolutely goes with neurodivergence in general. Like there's a lot of flavors of neurodivergence that have sensory kind of issues that go along with them. And that I feel like someone specifically commented when I posted in the Female Herpers and Reptile Keepers group about that they could not abide by the texture of fur. They don't like fur. They don't like hair in the house. And they love the fact that how their animals feel, their reptiles, when they hold them. It's a wonderful sensory sensation. Like having a heavy snake on your shoulders is like the most grounding. It's like a weighted blanket or like a massage. Like my big ball python, he's over 4 feet long. I think it's a he. Over 4 feet long, pretty heavy. He's not overweight, but he's not small. And it's such a wonderful sensation to have that just pressure. And that for me, that's like so grounding and so relaxing. I feel like there's so much sensory, like the feeling of a crested gecko. If people haven't felt them before, it's a sensory experience. I don't know. I just feel like a lot of neurodivergent people are more sensitive to kind of tactile sense. They have tactile sensitivities, and for both negative and positive, reptile keeping is definitely a sensory experience.
Oh, 100%.
It can be something that's amazing. And then I've got, maybe the concept of the mealworms and stuff would squig someone out even more if they have sensory sensitivities. So yeah, that's one of those, there's pros and cons to it, but the sensory, the feeling an animal crawling on you.
Yeah.
A crested gecko or the scoots of a snake kind of, or the pressure. I mean, that to me, that's such I can feel the tension leaving my body because it's such an amazing sensory experience.
If I invite an animal on me or I'm aware that it's coming on me, it's different. Mm-hmm. Like if there's an insect that's on me outside or wherever, it's probably going to be dead.
Yeah. Oh, and Jedi said, speaking of sensory, you haven't lived until you've had somebody throw a live squirrel at you from across the room and then have it scurry up you. See, and that's why I'm not saying mammals. I would be much more excited with someone tossing a lizard at me from across the room than a squirrel.
I've had squirrels.
Yeah.
I've had squirrels as pets, and they're awesome, but I don't know what I would do if someone threw one at me. Like,
yeah.
That seems aggressive.
That would certainly be a sensory experience, more on the negative side probably than the positive.
Yeah,
oh my God,
I don't know.
That's funny.
Jen said she had a mouse run up a friend's pant leg. Ooh. Yeah, I would lose my mind. That would. I don't know. I don't know if that.
Yeah, it has to be a consensual sensory experience. It can't be a.
Yeah.
Because I've definitely had dubias fall and land on my leg, and I'm like, nope, we're done. You're going to a tarantula now. This is. Don, you're late.
Death. You didn't know it, but you chose death.
Yeah, the dubia chose death. The squirrel was into it, so it was consensual squirrel tossing. That's important. It's important.
The squirrel was into it. All right, as long as the squirrel was into it.
So yeah, I do feel like there's that sensory aspect is something. Even the smells, in a positive way. I mean, obviously there's negative smells that go along with the reptiles too, but if you have a bioactive that's been going for a while, like a tropical, like when I open my Cresties enclosures, and I open it and I get this it's like standing in a jungle, and you get this earthy smell of like growing things and earthy, and it is the best, most just sensory experience. Now when my blue tongue is eaten a whole bunch and I go up, a couple hours later, that's not a great sensory experience. So worst. Again, it's like the pros and cons, or like big snakes. You can always tell when the enclosure needs to be cleaned out when you have a big snake.
Oh, a big snake. Yes. I see. Bingo likes to crap in her water dish or on me.
They're real good at that. Yeah, Cheeto does that too.
That makes it way worse. I don't know. I don't know if you saw the live where I was at my friend Kyle's house. So he has a baby green anaconda. She's like 2 feet long. And so she was in her water dish, and he doesn't have her full tank set up yet. Mm-hmm. But she was in a water dish that she had shit in. And we were going live. And I was like, when we found out, and I was like, that's fine. Just, I didn't know he had intended to get her out because she's very bitey as well.
Shocking.
So he reaches in this poopy water dish and grabs this baby anaconda who's angry. And now it's like anaconda poop water everywhere. I was like, dude, why are you?
Yeah, okay. That would be the negative sensory experience that goes with reptiles.
But at the same time, I was like, I'm just going to bite him on a live stream. This is going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome.
It's going to go viral. Hot damn.
Hell yes. There's my short right there.
Oh, God. There you go. But yeah, I love all the kind of sensations that go along with the kind of the visual, the smell of the positive smells, the sensation of them, the feel is wonderful. I mean, it's a sensory delight for me. And I feel like so many, when you have those kind of sensory sensitivities, I don't know, everything's just, for me, it's heightened. Everything's heightened. So I'm very sensitive to smells. I'm very sensitive to like textures and stuff. So those are all good ones for me. And not everyone, again, I'm one neurodivergent person, so I'm certainly not speaking for everyone.
Well, everybody's different, right? Everybody's got their own mix. So
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. My daughter hates sand, so she would never keep anything that she would have to keep on sand because she would be like, nope, can't touch sand. This is not happening, So tropical. So I'm like, so why do you like sand boas so much? Even though sand's right in the name. They don't stay on sand. They're on aspen shavings, and eventually they'll be in like bioactive, kind of like the dirt and sand mix, but not just straight sand, because that would be
do it non-starter.
So Adam, you said you have a tarantula molting right now. What kind of tea is it?
Yeah, that's a broad brush. It's a broad brush.
That always stresses me out. I'm always worried that they're going to get stuck or they're going to have a mismolt, and then I'm like, but then I don't want to stress them out by standing there staring over them looming like Josh does with his isopods. So I don't like yeah, so I don't I don't know, but I do that is I don't know. I love my tarantulas too. That's a whole nother rabbit hole of hyperfocus, you know, tarantula species. And
yeah,
I mean,
I'm waiting.
I know you're limited to your one. I'm lucky. I've no one in my house who is actively forbid tarantulas, so I can keep going with tarantulas.
They don't do it for me. I want to get jumpers, but I don't know. I don't have the time. They're a little too right now. I don't have the time to just devote to jumpers because I feel like I'd be with them all day, every day.
Yeah, they're so pretty cool. I have jumpers on my desk right now, just a couple of them. So you have an LP, nice. I have an LP too. It's about this big. They're crazy fast growers. I keep New Worlds mostly, not because I'm anti old world tarantulas. I had a Saba Blue sling that I don't know if it mismolted or if it was kind of a failure to thrive thing, but it ended up dying, which bums me out because he was really cool. I think I've got like 30-ish tarantulas. After a certain point, you lose count, and that's probably at the time where you should just stop because
when you lose count.
I have I can move this a little bit. I guess you can't see it from here. Maybe if I turn my computer a little. That shelf that's very dark that no one can probably see. That's all my tarantulas over there. But I know that they'll get bigger. A lot of them are slings right now. So I'm trying to restrain myself from buying more because they will all need bigger enclosures.
Ignore the slings behind the curtain.
Ignore the slings behind the curtain. Yeah, exactly. But I've got jumping spiders on my desk and a tiny, tiny little wolf spider, and a tiny itty bitty little scorpion, which is like, it's literally like the size of an earring. The scorpion is. This I got from Tie Dye Exotics, which is awesome. So I don't know if you've.
I've never even heard of them. There's so many. There are so many breeders.
No, he's got all kinds of amazing stuff. But yeah, fun stuff. My little jumper. This is one of my he's up on the top there.
Oh yeah, you see him.
It's a Audax, Phidippus Audax.
Yeah, is that the Regal?
Little guy. No, it's a Bold.
I like his little husk, whatever that thing is. His little.
Oh yeah, his little
tiny coconut.
Of course, they never use them.
There he is. He's on it right now.
I know, you make a liar out of me, you wretched thing. They always do this. They build their little webby things up at the top of them. They're like, we're not going to use the hole that you made for us.
The little hammock.
Little boogers.
I'll probably catch another one this year and
yeah, they're pretty cool. Then I've got one of my big female Regals. I don't know if you can see.
Oh yeah, she's
big.
In the She
all
was
webs. Oh my God. Yeah. She's got her little hideout over there. I've got a couple, and then I've got one male who's one molt, I think, away from being an adult. So I'm excited to be able to pair him and have a bunch of jumping spider babies again.
That's a lot of work.
Most of mine right now are, I've sold most of mine, and so I'm down to just a couple. But yes, it is a lot of work. That is the most high maintenance because they need to be fed every couple days, and it's fruit flies everywhere. So, but they are fun. Yeah, old worlds. Old worlds are super fun. I would like some Poecilotherias. I don't want to buy anything else until all of my current tarantulas are in their grown-up enclosures, so I know how much space I have. And I have a feeling it's going to be negative space is what I have left. So
gotta go communal. You gotta go communal.
Right. It's got to be Balfour's. That's the one that I tell my wife about, communal tarantulas, and she gets this look of horror on her face. So I don't want to push it. I feel like she's come so far. I really I don't want to push it with her. So,
the thing is with communal tarantulas, they're not I think people think of other communal insects. They're not a team so much as they're a decent neighborhood.
They tolerate each other.
Yeah, they're a decent bunch of neighbors. Yeah, sometimes they'll eat off the same thing. They'll have a little barbecue, but they're not gonna team up and come after
teamwork.
you.
Yeah, they're not like that.
I do wish someone could get a camera in their like hive, because their nest ball thing is a hive. That's all it is, and I want to see what
how it
happens
all connects
in there.
and
The
how
structures. Yeah. I would love to see that. Somebody needs to figure that out, because that would be so cool.
That would be awesome.
I think we're about at time. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
I don't know. I mean, I just neurodivergence is kind of one of my deep interests, my hyperfocuses. So I definitely see a lot of it in the community, and
that's why when I thought of this topic, I was like, I'm calling Heather, like immediately. You got the text 5 seconds after I came up with the idea.
Yes, I love it. So no, I feel like we covered a lot. Obviously, I'm only speaking from my own experiences and kind of what I know. In no way is anything I'm saying, the one true way of being neurodivergent. There isn't. It's the person who invented the term talked about it being a term of inclusion rather than a term of exclusion.
The definition I said was like it is kind of, the term is there to celebrate the neurodiversity of it's a lot of neuro in front of a lot of words, but
exactly
neurodivergent is hand in hand with neurodiversity, which is really a cool way of looking at it. And I'm sad I brought it up now at the end of the video.
At the end of the video, we had to eventually circle back around to the topic, right? But yeah, I love the community, and I love the neurodivergent people in general that I've met in this community, and there's a whole lot of us. So I love to be able to kind of talk about it, but I really do feel like it's an awesome community for connecting with other like-minded people who like to share all of our awesome special interests.
Rod is
oh yes, Rod, yes,
level.
Definitely. So Jen, what you need to do is give them time, because jumpers and velvet spiders and mantids are definitely gateway insects, and that's how it started. And now my wife
millipedes. Do you mean centipedes, Jen?
I don't know. Some people don't like millipedes because they got too many legs. I used to be like that.
Centipedes are just so disgusting and scary.
No. I don't want to own any, but I think they're fascinating in a way that I didn't used to, because it's exposure.
Wow, it is millipedes. Sorry, I'm not trying to correct you, Jen. I get them confused all the time, or I type the wrong thing all the time. She's like, no, don't try to mansplain to me.
Well, well, hopefully he he eventually changes his mind, and he starts seeing that they can have their appeal. My Taylor Swift scorpions, I love. They're amazing. Their names are Taylor Swift and Indiana Jones. And I love them. They're both Phrynis whitei, because, Taylor Swift is Taylor Swift scorpion. And
that part I get, but Indiana Jones.
Because the whip, he's got a whip.
They don't have, I guess they are whip. I got
they
you.
do. They have the little
the
feeler things. So they're super fun. Yeah, and I think some of it is exposure. What you don't know, you're more likely to fear. The more exposure you have, you look at something, you're like, oh, like my wife used to be terrified of scorpions, and now she's literally like, babe, let's get another scorpion. Because she's like, I don't know how anyone could be afraid of these. They're just so cool.
They sit in one spot.
Yeah, literally, they just sit in one spot, and if you have the audacity to fill up their water dish, they go, ha. And then,
how dare you?
What was I thinking, right? How dare you keep me alive?
Jen, I will give you advice. This is IsoBuddy's exclusive advice. So here's the thing. You get one. You just have a new enclosure somewhere. You get one, and then eventually they find it. But it's been there. They've seen the enclosure for like months. And then they ask, what's in there? And you're like, don't worry about it. And then they look, and they find out it's a scorpion or a tarantula or millipedes. I would do millipedes because they're harmless. Absolutely. Instead of just like, hypothetically. And then it's easier to ask forgiveness than permission. Then you make them a nice dinner.
I do not recommend this. This is just because I am on this particular episode does not mean I'm consenting to what Josh is saying. Do not do that.
Just do it.
then your husband can come to Josh's place and yell at him instead of yelling at me.
Have him comment in the bottom. We need that
there
interaction.
You go.
I need that
Damn
for
it,
the
man.
algorithm.
Oh, there you go.
I could easily sneak it in.
No, if he's helping, then you're good. You got a good one then. It's important. My boyfriend is very feels that way about the oh God, what are they called now? I can't even. Jerusalem crickets.
Okay,
that look like the cooties. I think they're adorable, but where he grew up, they were out all around, and they just just. Thank you, son. Apparently, my son does not like them either. Okay, I will not be getting Jerusalem crickets out of respect for my. Apparently. All right, and on that note, I'm gonna just be done for the night. My son is calling me on stuff here.
I thought he was up fixing his bow ties for tomorrow's school day.
Yeah, right. No, I mean, well, he got a tailcoat for Christmas and wore it to school today. He's very fancy. Yes, my family isn't neurodivergent at all. I swear.
Yeah, you could tell.
Totally normal, completely normal, 100%. Yeah. So, anyways, thank you. I appreciate you having me on to ramble and info dump.
Thank you. I appreciate our frequent examples of neurodivergence. I think we covered it though. I think we did a good intro to it.
I think so. Yeah, and I'm 503 Menagerie on Instagram. So if anyone has any comments or fun facts that you want to share, I'm such a huge nerd. You can always message or comment. And thank you, Josh.
There you go.
Usual, it's been super fun.
We'll see you Sunday for sure.
Yes, definitely.
Have a good one, Heather. Thanks again.
You too.
All right.
Bye.
All right. Love you.
Bye.
Yeah, she said the bye. Did you see that? I made it weird. Okay, so she clicked off as soon as I clicked her out. So, guys, thank you for coming. You don't have to listen to all my advice. It's not always good. Has anyone gotten Jerusalem crickets to breed? I don't see why you couldn't. I don't know. I don't see why you couldn't. That's the last question. So guys, like and subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a comment. Leave a comment. Somebody has to, except for Moon. Moon is the only one that always leaves a comment. Other than that, we have our Patreon. We have everything else. Support your local guys. We got springtails.us. We got Isopods Anonymous, Go Sports Spring Gecko, and all the guys that do that, that did this Supreme Days of Christmas. That's it. That's all I got today. Next week we are going to be talking to none other than Smugbug. Laura from Smugbug is going to join us, and we are going to get into some stuff. So, she has agreed to kind of let me ask her whatever I want, and I'm excited. So this could be a big one. So it'll be a lot of fun. We're going to talk to her a little bit about bugs and a little bit about business and a lot of bit about the community. So it should be fun. And then I don't have anything planned after that, but we're going to figure it out. So we're going to get some folks in here. But you guys have a great week. I hope your New Year's is awesome or was awesome. I hope 2024 is everything you want it to be. We'll see you soon. Okay, we'll see you next week. Hopefully, should be a good one. And until then.